People talk about releasing the Snyder Cut, but I would love it if Brian went back. Superman Returns was a half an hour longer than it was when it was released.
Uh-oh, ladies and gentlemen, right there, you heard it. Right here, it's an exclusive. There's more Superman Returns.
I mean, and a lot of the deleted scenes that are on the Superman disc, or what happens is Brian never test screens his movies, really. Mm-hmm. He does what he calls family and friends screenings, where he invites trusted people and gets their opinion. Mm-hmm. But with the friends and family screenings of Superman Returns, the first 20 minutes of the original version, there's no dialogue. There's the return to Krypton and all of that. And a lot of the younger people that saw Superman Returns had no idea what was going on.
Yeah.
They didn't know Superman the movie. They didn't know the wrecked Krypton. So they're like, what is all this?
Yeah.
And the Fortress of Solitude, because the way it was structured, it was very different. I mean, Kal Penn doesn't even have a line of dialogue in the final version of Superman Returns. And his character, he had a character.
Yeah.
And so there's all kinds of stuff that was lost. And I liked the friends and family version much better. The version that they finished, I thought was much better than what we ended up getting. And again, it was the studio, and Brian's working with the studio. So they made it, instead of 3 hours long, it's 2.5 hours long. And, I was talking to Brian about this not too long ago. And I go, I mean, now that they've got like the Mandalorian on Disney Plus, and they have this behind the scenes show, I'm like, I got 1,500 hours of behind the scenes footage of the making of Superman Returns.
Oh my goodness.
And we could cut together like 8 hours worth of, because the documentary that I made is only 3 hours long, but and obviously Brian has his own personal, there's a lot of legal issues and things are bad for him, but you could go back and do it. If HBO Max wanted to do more things like the Snyder Cut, you could go back and reassemble that version of Superman Returns and put out the 3 hour version. Then we could do a documentary series and make it, like 10 parts or something. Not that anybody would do that, because my documentary was shot in HD, but it was only finished in standard def.
Okay.
So, and I've got great stuff that nobody's ever seen.
Oh my gosh.
It was nuts. Like, I'll tell you a funny story. So I'm working on Narnia, and I just happened to be home. I don't know when this was. It was in 2004, but it was, I think it might've been September 2004. So I get this call from Brian, and he goes, I need you to come to the studio tomorrow and bring your camera. And I'm like, what am I doing? He goes, I'm not going to tell you. Just come to Warner Brothers and come to the studio and bring your camera. I'm like, okay. Well, I didn't have my cameras because they were all in New Zealand shooting Chronicles of Narnia. So I went and rented a camera, and I go down there, and Brian was shooting a 65 millimeter film screen test of Brandon Routh, who was his only choice to play Superman. At that point, there was nobody else. And he was, get this, he was doing a screen test with Keri Russel as Lois Lane.
Really?
Yes. So Keri Russel and Brandon were shooting a screen test, and Keri Russel was crushing it. She was so good. Oh. First of all, she was, and I kind of hung out with them, and I was there. I filmed him picking out his glasses, and it's all in the documentary. But it was an amazing day, and one of the things that struck me about I loved Keri Russel was, I mean, she emanated. She's a beautiful girl.
Yeah.
But she's beautiful in this kind of accessible sort of a way. But being around her and feeling her energy, she was just a delightful person. And that was the only time I've ever met her. And of course, I don't know if she was ever up for Lois Lane. She didn't play Lois Lane, but in the screen test, she did. And when I put the screen test on video, I had to cut her out of it. And I put Kate Bosworth on the reverse angles of it and stuff. And it always bummed me out because, actors don't want to promote roles they didn't get. But and I had such a crush on her, even though it was the only time I ever saw her, because I hung out with them all day shooting them. Sure. And it was really interesting. So that year of my life in Sydney, I cannot tell you how much fun it was. It was so much fun working on that movie. I mean, just a blast. And you think about it, I'm on set all day, wandering around the camera. I talk to anybody I want. You know, I go, so tell me what we're doing now. You know, and it was so, I mean, I've learned so much about how to make giant. I hope I can get my filmmaking career re-energized again. I'd love to direct another movie, but I know so much about making $200 million movies, working on Lord of the Rings or X-Men or Narnia or Superman Returns. So I got to watch all of these movies get made, and I was in the inner sanctum. So I was in every production meeting. I would hang out with the producers, and it was great. I mean, it was a great experience, and that movie was so much fun to watch it come together and make it. It was so cool.
Yeah, I can see now, like I said, going back now, and it was funny because right after I did, we got this great picture of me and the family with Brandon, and it just, all of a sudden I just had this connection to this movie like I've never had before. And then we came back, we watched it as a family, and I just said, man, I've never had that experience before where something changed for me because of an interaction or because of talking to somebody about something. But just listening to Brandon, like I said, and now all of a sudden, like in my office at work, I've got a Superman Returns poster. I got a Superman Returns poster, and I honestly, so I'm a musician, and I wrote a song called Heroes, where I actually borrow a line from Superman Returns, which I used to say that was really ironic given the fact that it wasn't my favorite Superman thing in the world. But I did tell Brandon even that day, even before we talked, I said, a couple of my favorite Superman moments that I think is just that are just iconic come from that movie, because one is the one of just him hovering, listening.
It's so great. Oh
my gosh, that is just, I remember the first time I saw that, it just does something to you, because you get it. He's thinking, and he's trying to filter out everything and just the noise and pinpoint. And then when he hears what he needs to hear, he goes. And also Robert. So I'm a man of faith. It's kind of what I do. I'm a worship pastor at my church.
I didn't mean to swear. I swore.
No, you were fine. And I don't say that for that reason. Because
I apologize.
Because look, no, Rob, no, please. And I don't say that for that reason, because look, this channel is not about me doing that. It's not about me like trying to force anything. No,
I can also be respectful. I mean, I
appreciate
that. I have a potty mouth.
Well, I appreciate that, but Rob, honestly, like, I like people to be. I often joke with people like, I'm not going to melt. You know what I mean? Like, right. You know what I mean? Like I'm pretty chill, and I like people to be raw. I like people to be who they are. So, but I say this because obviously there's a lot of symbolism. Even Brian talks about the symbolism between a Christ figure and
he flat out says the line about, look, these people are crying out for a savior.
And that's it. And like, oh my gosh. So I put that, I took that line and I put it in this song Heroes, that just talks about being a hero to people and helping people where they are and reaching people where they are and caring about people every day. Yeah. And that line, man, that line just still to this day, when he says, what do you hear? She says nothing. And he says, I hear everything. Mm-hmm. I hear everything. I hear you wrote that the world doesn't need a savior, but yet I hear them crying out for one every day. Like, yeah. Oh my gosh. Like that's just power. I mean, if you're a person of faith, if you're not a person of faith, if you just hearing Superman say that, for God's sake, you look at it and you look at the world we live in and you go, we don't even realize what we need sometimes, that we need saviors. We need people to be heroes to each other.
Right.